What's up, throttle junkies and trailblazers? Today, we're diving headfirst into the wild orange wilderness with the 2025 KTM 390 Adventure R. Are you ready? Let's do this. So as I look this bike over, this thing has more tech than a spaceship and more ground clearance than my self-esteem on a good day. Whether you're planning an epic cross-country journey or just trying to navigate a Starbucks parking lot full of SUVs, KTM says this bike's ready. But are you ready? So it's time to find out if this mini ADV is the GOAT or just another mountain goat impersonator. The 2025 KTM 390 Adventure R. At 399 cc's, this powerful little engine is a dual overhead cam, 4-valve liquid-cooled machine with 44 horsepower at 8,500 RPM and 28.7 foot-pounds of torque at 7,000 RPMs. On the front, the suspension is a 43mm WP Apex open cartridge fork, and on the rear, WP Apex separate piston shock with 9.1 inches of travel, preload, and 20-click rebound adjustability. This bike carries Bosch fuel injection with 46mm throttle body and a 6-speed manual transmission. The clutch is a mechanically operated slipper clutch with a Quickshifter option. The machine has a wheelbase of 58.3 inches and a seat height of 34.3 inches, ground clearance of 272 millimeters, however tall that is, fuel capacity of 3.7 US gallons, and a wet weight of 364 pounds. All right, so the day has finally come and the entire lineup of the 390s from KTM, brand new for 2025, are finally here. We're going to start off with this one right here, which is the Adventure R. And, you know, we kind of went over some of the specs and kind of what I thought in general about what you can do with this bike. But we're going to dive a little bit more in depth in this bike, some of the differences that I've noticed. Being a salesperson for KTM, I've sold all sorts of KTMs here out of Wenatchee Power Sports, and this bike is definitely has some nice upgrades that are brand new that I just kind of want to point out to you guys. We're also going to be talking about, you can see behind me here is the SMC. That is a completely different video. I will include a link in the description to that video as well, where I'm going to do a full review on that bike. But today we're going to talk about this adventure bike and what is this bike for? Who is this bike for? I think initially this bike is for someone who doesn't want a big adventure bike but wants to basically take an adventure. It is big enough to kind of get through all the different terrain, in my opinion, but small enough to be able to lift up easily if it happens to go down, and also pretty maneuverable. And I have not ridden this bike yet, so we're going to take it for a test ride today, and I'm going to get the helmet on and I'm going to tell you what I think while I'm riding it. I'm not going to take it in the dirt, but I am going to tell you what I think about it compared to other 390s in the past from KTM. Now, as I look over this bike, I notice a few differences that I really want to point out, some really unique features. First of all, this bike has the largest TFT screen out of the bunch. There's 4 different bikes for the 390 lineup this year from KTM. This one has the largest TFT screen, and it's very colorful. It's got lots of technology in it, different drive modes, or ride modes rather, that you can choose depending on what your conditions are. One thing I also noticed is I don't know what the correct term is, but the ergonomics, or I don't know what you want to call it, but basically the buttons. They really laid out the buttons on the control panel very nicely. In some bikes kind of tuck them things in and they don't think about the rider in general, but KTM's done really well about thinking about, okay, do I want to look at the buttons before I turn them, or do I just want to be able to feel it out and keep my eyes on the road? And KTM's done a really good job there, because the buttons are large and it's easy to kind of get your thumb into the right position. And the way it's designed, the main center here where you can scroll through the TFT, it's got like this concaved sort of a vibe where all the buttons are at a different angle, and you can really feel your way around it, as well as the turn signal button. KTM's always does great with their turn signal button, where it's big and you definitely know it's there and you don't accidentally hit other buttons. The one complaint I would have is that the horn button is right underneath that, and I have a feeling that it's very possible that you could activate the horn while trying to turn left. Just one small complaint, if I'd have any complaints without even riding it. A couple other things I noticed is that they've really bulked up the design a little bit on this bike. As far as everything is different, the design is different, and as I look around it, all of the frame, the subframe, just some little accents and tweaks that make this bike look bigger, bolder, more muscular than its previous bike. The previous bike was good, but I think that they really did a nice job on the design of this guy through and through. The handguards have a really nice shape to them. The grips are different. You'll notice right away the grips are a little bit more on the polished side. They have a really nice texture on them, so I appreciate that. And of course, you know, the suspension is really easy to access, I think, versus other bikes. It kind of looks like they did kind of a bar rise on this bike versus the previous model of the 390 Adventure. And of course, it has a really nice skid plate on the bottom here. You could probably upgrade the skid plate to something else, but I'm not sure you would even have to. It looks like they did a good job at designing it. It goes all the way underneath the bike. I like the fact that KTM is sticking with the spokes design, which makes the tires a little bit, makes it feel softer and not as rigid as like mag wheels can be, essentially. Let's talk about the lights. Very nice LED lights. That's one thing that is definitely different and unique in this year. Is if you look at the lights on this thing all the way around, a very nice LED package all the way around the bike. The lights look sharp. I'm not even sure if you would want to do any sort of tail tidy or anything like that. I think they did a good job with the design of the LED lights, which I kind of like. My biggest complaint about this bike is probably, just at first blush, the mirrors. These mirrors are ugly. They're round, they're big, they just come up and over. There's no design. I think that they could have maybe gone a little extra, gone the extra mile, maybe made a nice, more designer looking mirror. This is something that I'm sure a lot of riders will probably want to get different. So if you're in the in the business of making mirrors for motorcycles, I would make some for this bike, because you'll probably sell quite a few of them. It looks like the windscreen, as usual, has a really great design from KTM. It's got that nice hole in the front of it, which probably has something to do with the wind deflection and not putting as much pressure on the windscreen itself. But we're going to find out during the test ride on what I think about it, because we're going to get it up on the highway, and it is a little bit breezy today. So in general, I think this is a good looking bike. Also, the last thing before we get going is the coolant reservoir is easily accessible. It's got a meter on it, like a level meter, so you can physically see how much coolant you have, and you can fill it up right along the side. very nice. Now, as we go to the front of the bike, there is a couple things that I do want to point out. Number one, the kickstand. KTMs have not been notorious for having a great kickstand, but they probably listened to some customer complaints about other bikes, and they made a kickstand that is one of the best kickstand designs I've ever seen. It's big, it's hardy, it's got a nice long foot to it, which is very important for stability, and it works really well. It tucks up there pretty nice, and the rear passenger pegs are also really nice. A nice design here as this goes back to the rear passenger pegs, which tuck away pretty nicely. And last but definitely not least, let's talk about the price. What can you expect to pay for a bike like this? Now, the MSRP is $69.99 plus fees, and unfortunately, when you are a power sports dealer, you incur a number of fees just to get the bike from the factory to the showroom and then ultimately to your driveway or your garage, right? And those fees include freight costs and setup costs. And these bikes don't come fully assembled. We have to do a final assembly on it, so we have to pay a guy to assemble it. And then since the bike is coming from India, there's some extra freight costs, unfortunately, right now that are involved in this bike. So you can expect to pay somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,500 to $2,000 on top of the MSRP when you get a new 390 bike from the KTM lineup. That's depending on if the dealership wants to charge a premium for the bike, which they can if they want. A lot of dealerships might be doing this primarily because of the demand for this bike. There is a huge demand for this 390 lineup from KTM. I get calls every day asking for these bikes, but unfortunately KTM's only sending us a certain amount. So be prepared for spending upwards of maybe about $10,000 out the door with tax and license for a bike like this. But I think KTM has made up for it with their warranty. They're offering a 2-year factory warranty on this guy out of the gate, which I think is pretty generous for KTM considering the circumstances. But I think for what you get for under 10 grand is a lot of bike, and I think that you'll agree with me once you ride it. However, I haven't rode it yet, but I'm about to. So now it's time to get my gear on and take this bike for a ride. This is it. This is the first time I've rode this bike, and I'm excited to see how it compares with previous 390 adventure models. So here we go. I'm gonna go get my gear on and let's do this. All right, here we go. Time to take the adventure for a ride. All right, here we go. All right, so we are on the road. Very first impressions, comfort. I always talk about comfort. The bike's seat is actually pretty comfortable. I think for an adventure bike, you want something that's comfortable. You know, these bikes are meant to go long distances, and KTM always does a good job, I think, with their seats. Their 890 Adventures, super comfortable. And we are going to start off by getting it out on the highway. Also noticed right out of the gate, go ahead, that the bike is taller. And definitely taller than the previous 390 Adventure. Let's get it up to speed here. We'll talk some more about that. some backfiring there. I'm pretty sure it's this car right here. I thought it was the bike at first. All right, 6th gear pull. Let's see what we can do. We are straight into the wind, and it's got a bit of a wobble when you get up there to speed, but I think a lot of that could just be the wind. Pretty good power though, I think, just getting up to speed. It's kind of challenging today. It's so windy. The wind's kind of blowing me around, but I think even in the wind, the bike is pretty stable, and I don't feel a lot coming off of the windscreen. It's definitely going over me, which is nice. Gonna get into our little backroads twisty track here, and downshifting super smooth. Fantastic job, KTM, on the downshifting. I'm a fan of bikes that downshift well, and this is about as smooth as I can hope for. Okay, in this section I usually test out the Quickshifter. Pretty smooth there again on the way up. Very smooth on the way down when you compare it with like my Yamaha Tracer, which doesn't downshift very well in quick shift mode. That's actually pretty smooth right there. On the way up, I would say if anything it's a little bit harder on the way up than the way down, but I'm more of a clutch guy. I like the clutch. So I rarely use my quick shifter or a quick shift function. But let's see how it handles on these twisty roads for just a minute. Handles great. The bike is really tall. I feel so much taller than in the previous 390 Adventures. The previous model years were just short and squatty, and I don't know, kind of left something to be desired, I think, for ground clearance, but you can feel how tall the bike is, and that gives you better ground clearance, so when you're on the road or on the dirt road, you should handle a lot better going over bumps. You know, when you compare a 390 with like any sport bike, it's not going to have the kind of power, but it does have a fair amount when you want it. Kind of lugging it out of 4th there. Really good, actually, digging its way out of 4th gear when you probably should be in 3rd. But handles the roads very well. It's the last little straightaway. So shifting, the shifter is pretty tall. Like you really have to kind of really click up to get through the gears. And I don't know if they're making room for adventure boots or if that's just how they have it, but some bikes, you know, have a really tight kind of shifting window, but this one is pretty tall. You really have to kind of get your foot up to click it into place. So not bad. And then between the legs, very narrow. So this bike is super nimble and very narrow. It doesn't feel wide at all, which is probably good for when you're off-road and you're trying to navigate through maybe some single track, or, you know, I don't know, whatever life throws at you up in the mountains. Good comfortable riding position. Not too upright, but you know, I like how this is laid out. Like I said before, the ergonomics of the switch Now that turn signal is kind of near that horn. I was not able to hit it, but I can see that happening. You know, definitely not going to be breaking any speed records with this guy, but it's not what this bike's for. You know, you're not going to buy this bike because you want to go fast. You want to buy this bike because you want a nimble adventure bike that it doesn't cost a lot of money and that you can take up in the mountains without issues. If you happen to lay it down, you can probably lift the bike right back up, which is really good. If you do happen to put the bike down, it's easy, you know, it's nice to be able to lift it up. Not that that's a reason that you would buy the bike, but it is one of the benefits that I would see about owning a smaller, lighter bike like this. I think that you could definitely go long distances with this motorcycle, and the way it's set up, get some panniers on this thing, and I can definitely see how I can see myself going on a longer trip on a bike like this. I personally, if I was going to go on an ADV or an adventure ride, I would probably want a bigger bike, but I would also, I'm afraid to take bigger bikes in the dirt. But a bike like this, I would have no problem taking on dirt roads without feeling like it's too big and that it's too much to handle when the time comes that you want to hit some dirt. So I think that's the compromise of this bike and the allure. Not only that, very nice design. Again, they did a fantastic job with the design of the bike. And when you compare, especially when you compare it with previous models, and there's still 3 other models out there aside from this one that I haven't seen yet. So they're definitely branched out. It used to have just the one, and now they've got 4 different bikes in that lineup. So I think that it'd be interesting to see and test ride the other bikes comparative to this one. This is the first time that I've rode the new 390 platform, so I'm looking forward to riding other 390 bikes. The next bike I have up in the lineup is the SMC, which is more of a sport bike, more up my alley per se. But you know, they designed all the different bikes to do different things, and I expect a little bit better handling on the tight and twisty roads. It's a lot smaller, it's shorter to the ground, which is going to be good. And you know, in general, I think the KTM did a great job here. I am definitely impressed. Nice easy turnaround there, super nimble. All right, so I think that when we talk about a bike like the 390 Adventure, it looks a lot bigger than it actually is. It's only a 400 or 399 cc bike, right? But it's tall, so you can see the ground clearance there. I think for ground clearance purposes, it's great. I think that the look of it is sharp. Definitely a sharp look about it, and I like what they've done with the total design. The TFT screen was super easy to read, and it's the largest out of all the TFT screens, and I think that's probably wise for a reason. It's going to have the most tech because this bike is meant to go long distances on adventure where you want all that tech. And then I am looking forward to riding the other bikes, like I said before, but in general, that is the 390 KTM 390 Adventure R, the 2025 model. Very cool. I give it a thumbs up. Now it's time to do a quick outro, and then I'm out of here. So after a day of tearing up trails and dodging potholes and questioning my life choices, the 2025 KTM 390 Adventure R has definitely earned its street and dirt cred. It's agile, packed with features, and it screams ready to race, even when you're just racing to the gas station for some snacks. So if you're looking for an ADV that punches way above its weight class and doesn't punch your wallet in the face, this KTM could be your two-wheeled soulmate. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time from Dual Sport.